Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my husband's mistress thinks that he's richer than he actually is. So I'm 39, my husband's 39, his mistress is 29, and my best friend is 39. We've been together for 14 years, living together for 11. He came and told me that he was in love about 3 weeks ago. I was surprised at how little I actually cared when he told me this. I did love him, but maybe my love has always been conditional, and its survival depends on it being reciprocated, because it literally vanished the second he confessed to me that he was in love with another woman. He didn't want a separation, but to maybe open the relationship or let his feelings for her subside. I said it was over. It was like I never had feelings for him ever. He was taken aback by my indifference, which I thought, the audacity. Did he want me to be hurt and suffer? I told him that he should be relieved that he didn't cause me pain. Instead, he's been sulking ever since. Last Friday, I got home and the mistress was there, sitting in my kitchen and sipping my tea. I felt nauseous because, seriously? I told them that this wasn't civil at all and to never be in my home again or I would call the cops. I went to my room and I heard her yelling at him for not standing up for her. Then I heard her say something very curious. "Why haven't you kicked her out yet?" He was trying to tell her to lower her voice, whispering, "Later, we can discuss this later." She left and he came to me apologizing. He said, "We didn't hook up here if that's what you're afraid of. She just dropped by because I was working from home today." I told him that he had until the end of March to move out and to find somewhere to be during the weekends. This morning, I changed all of the locks. From now on, he isn't allowed in my place during my working hours, so if he starts later or finishes earlier, he needs to wait for me to come home and let him in. But his mistress' words stuck with me, so during the weekend, I've been stalking her social media. I think that she thinks that he's rich, or at least that he owns my apartment. I think she also thinks that my parents' summer house and boat are his. Unfortunately, the loser has taken her there, probably bragging about his wealth because her hashtags were all about the good life. I was telling my best friend all of this, but she was more agitated than indignant on my behalf. She told me that he was scum not telling the mistress the truth. I agreed. I know, right? But then she said I was no better by not explaining his situation to her. I was dumbfounded, but she was serious. I told her that it wasn't my job to bring back the mistress to Earth. My best friend got very angry and demanded that I give the mistress username to her so she could warn her. "No," I said. She called me a bigger jerk than he is. I don't know what's going on with these people. Have they gone mad or have I? When did our moral compass go askew like this? Can someone tell me that I'm not insane? Nope, not wrong. Get rid of him and wash your hands. Your bestie sounds delusional. You're not responsible for his lies. Kick him out and leave it alone. You don't owe his mistress any explanation at all. I think it would be funny when she finds out on her own. My guess is the reason your partner wanted to open the relationship is so that the mistress would continue to think that your family's things were actually his. He has some nerve having her over to your apartment regardless of if they hooked up there or not. That's so disrespectful. Sorry for the trouble you're going through, but glad you were strong enough to dump his cheating self. Am I the jerk for leaving my sister-in-law alone on the boat to go snorkeling while I was hosting? I, 34 female, recently went on a snorkeling trip with my husband, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and the kids, my sons, ages 7 and 3, plus brother-in-law and sister-in-law's son, who's 8. When I was planning this trip, all of the communication from brother-in-law and sister-in-law were always like, "We are so excited to go," or "We're looking forward to it." So I was always under the impression that everyone was going to, get in the water and go snorkeling. Heck, sister-in-law and I were even talking about what reef-safe sunscreen to buy before the trip. And then we get in the boat and we're headed off to the reef. Everyone's getting their snorkeling gear out, reapplying sunscreen, and I started to inflate my toddler's armbands. When sister-in-law saw me, she looked a bit confused and asked me whether my husband will be looking after both the boys in the water. I said my husband will go snorkeling with our 7-year-old while I get in the water and stay near the boat with our toddler. I'm 5 months pregnant and I didn't want to stray too far from the boat with the toddler. The day was beautiful and visibility was amazing, but no way was I going to let my husband wrangle both of the kids by himself. This wasn't a beach. We were literally jumping into the sea from the boat. She told me she assumed I'd be staying on the boat because of my toddler and my pregnancy. I told her no, I can't really do that. Look, both of my kids love the ocean. If my toddler saw his dad and brother get in the water while he's stuck on the boat, believe me, we'd all be suffering. I asked her if there's a specific reason why she didn't want to get in the water, and she said she's not a good swimmer. She then asked me whether I'd be okay with my 7-year-old going with my brother-in-law while my husband took our toddler. I said no, because I wanted at least one adult per kid. I told her she could put on a life jacket and join me in the water, but she said no. She then asked me to stay with her because she didn't want to be alone. She wasn't actually alone. The captain was on the boat, but I guess she didn't want to be alone with a stranger. I didn't stay on the boat. She only gave me one-word answers on the way back home, but I got a message the day before yesterday. She basically said that she was wrong to assume that I would stay on the boat, but she thought I would stay as a good host. I told her I'm sorry she felt that way. She called me a jerk that can't even properly apologize. I promptly cut that off and let my husband deal with it. Sister-in-law has called me multiple times since, but I haven't answered. My brother-in-law is unhappy that I'm ignoring her and told my husband to make me talk to her. Not the jerk. If she needs someone on the boat, she should have called her own husband back in. Was he aware she was planning to stay on the boat? Did brother-in-law know she wasn't going to swim and also just assume that you'd babysit her? And he had the gall to be annoyed with you? Your sister-in-law sounds like a kid who can't stay on her own for a bit. I mean, cab own. Husband tries to warn neighbors about their landscaping, gets told to mind his own business. Background. My husband is pretty handy. Prior to lockdown, he had done several house flips as a fun side gig. It's what he loves to do, and he became very familiar with a ton of city codes. During lockdown, seems everyone was suddenly buying houses to flip out of boredom and prices skyrocketed. So he put that on hold. So then he started doing household repairs and upgrades, building fences, etc. around the neighborhood as well. To get a better understanding of the neighborhood, HOA bylaws and whatnot, he joined the HOA Architectural Committee. Through that, he learned all there was to know about what was allowed and what was not, how the process worked, how to work around things, etc. Long story short, my husband was very knowledgeable in what to do and not do, and various processes with the neighborhood and the city. Our next-door neighbor decided that they were going to start landscaping their backyard, and they, I guess, planned to make theirs as similar to our backyard as possible. The problem was, despite being next-door neighbors, our land was quite different. For one thing, behind our house was a bunch of brush and pine trees, maybe 3 to 4 feet from the lake that's at the back of the house. We didn't have to do a whole lot to clear the area, but the brush on their property was about 1/3 of their yard. I'd say around 10 feet from the water. Also, the way the houses on our street are, the land naturally made like a valley, where the house to our right is at the top, we're in the middle, and the next 2 houses are at the bottom, before it very quickly rises again. First thing the neighbors did was cut down all of the trees in their backyard. They were not small trees either, but 4-story tall trees or more. Husband and neighbor were talking about the backyard plans when my husband casually mentioned he was surprised the city gave him permission to cut down so many trees. In our city, you had to have an arborist give permission to cut down any trees that were a certain height. Neighbor first said it wasn't the city's business what he did with his own backyard. Then he told my husband to mind his own business. Okay, fair enough. Then they started putting up the retaining wall to bring it up to level with our property, which would have been about 7 to 8 feet tall. Basically, they were just stacking a bunch of cinder blocks. My husband uneasily asked if their landscaper had ever done a retaining wall like that and if the city had approved it. City says that if a retaining wall is over 5 feet tall, you need to have a structural engineer come out. Neighbor said again it wasn't any of the city's business what he did to his yard, and for my husband to mind his own business. While they're filling up the backyard to bring theirs level to ours, the landscapers are dumping all of the dirt, gravel, and sand in the street, blocking a little over half the road. Several of the neighbors who had trucks would just hop the curb, but other neighbors with smaller cars were mad. Before my husband could ask if they could put the dirt and stuff in their driveway instead of the road, like everyone else, neighbor went off on my husband to buzz off. Well, okay then. My husband let them continue working and didn't say a word as they started constructing a 10-foot tall fence, which was against HOA regulations. Fences couldn't be taller than 6 feet. Between them starting construction 6 days a week before 7 a.m. and then blocking the road, I guess someone had had enough. Next thing I know, city officials are out there putting a big sign in the yard saying all construction was to be halted until further notice. It wasn't us, but my husband found out through the architectural committee that someone had complained about the noise and the road blockage to the HOA, who came out to investigate, saw everything they had done, and then reported them to the city. They got a hefty fine for every tree stump the city official found. The structural engineer said their retaining wall was not sound and had to be redone, and it had to have regular inspections during its build. The HOA also told them that not only did they have to take down their 10-foot-tall fence, but as they did not get prior approval, and because it was not an approved design, the HOA also hit them with a hefty fine. Initially, neighbor came after us for tattling, but we told them it wasn't us, as nothing they did affected us in any way. Our kids are early risers, so even starting before 7 didn't bother us. My husband then said he tried to warn them that this would happen, but neighbor told him to buzz off and mind his own business, so he did. Landscaping had started on Black Friday, was shut down for 3 weeks, while I guess they got things sorted out with the city and HOA. Their backyard is still not finished. I truly want to say it wasn't us that called the HOA or the city. We just let him be. But he did upset a lot of neighbors. When cutting down those trees, he had chainsaws and the wood chippers going off by 6:45 and the bobcat being used by 7 a.m. 6 days a week. Other neighbors tried to ask him to put his dirt on his driveway instead of the street, but he told them to mind their own business too. And a few people went ballistic on him when their car slid a bit after the rains we had turned the remaining dirt to mud. The school bus could also easily have complained to someone about it too, as it was a big ordeal for him. Also, there were other things he did to his front yard that we didn't warn him about either, and he got dinged for that. But I made this post mostly about him going against the city. Although the changes he made to the driveway also got dinged by the city. And yes, from what I heard, the tree fines were painful. This is my last weekend with my family, and they don't even know it. I'm 18, male. Don't get me wrong, I love my family, but they expect me to spend the rest of my life here in the projects, joining my dad at his work. They never wanted me to leave the house, let alone the state. I remember a few months ago when we were talking about college, they looked at me like I was crazy. My dad got so upset, he was yelling at me, and my mom has basically been guilt-tripping me ever since about abandoning my family when they raised me, so the least I could do was stay to help my dad in his business. That's not the life I want though. For years, they always kind of decided that I'm not doing anything else except this, so they don't even know that I started applying at different colleges, or that I've got a full scholarship. Couldn't even share that news with them because they'd get angry. My girlfriend and I already found an apartment to move in together closer to campus, which is like 20 hours away from here. Our summer classes start in over a week, so we decided this is going to be our last weekend here so we can have time to move. I'm not taking a lot with me except my clothes and important papers. She told me I should tell them since we're already leaving anyways, but I don't have the heart to do it. To be honest, I don't want today and tomorrow to be fighting or them being upset with me. I want our last weekend to be normal before I leave. I just hope that they can accept my choice in the future. Edit. We're now on the road. I'll post more details later. It sucks that I couldn't even share the most exciting news of my life with them. My girlfriend's parents took us out to eat to celebrate us both getting accepted with scholarships. I legit cried when they told me that they were proud of me because it made me wish that my parents said it too. I've already told my dad before that his business is not what I want to get into, so they really aren't the same. And about my girlfriend, we're going to the same university too, except she's majoring in psychology and I'm doing business economics. And about my parents, one of my teachers called it the lobster effect. You know, putting lobsters in a pot, one lobster is at the top and can get out, but keeps being pulled back down by the other lobsters. And growing up in the projects, I've seen a bunch of guys barely out of high school who are still here. It always scared me. It's not that I'm embarrassed or think I'm better, like I know where I come from. It's my home, but I can't not leave. Update. This whole thing went about as I expected. My parents thought we were just going on a camping trip with my girlfriend's family for a few days. When I hugged them to say goodbye, they thought this was still a camping trip. About an hour-ish in, I FaceTimed with them to tell them the truth. We pulled over so I could talk to them outside the car. My dad was yelling and my mom was crying. He couldn't believe he raised me to be this selfish with them. All my mom could say was that she can't even look at me right now since I basically picked school over my family. It broke my heart to be honest, but it made me glad we didn't have this talk in person because it would have hurt so much more. Trying to tell them I'm not abandoning them and I want them to be part of this journey with me didn't work. Nothing I said worked at all. My mom completely left the conversation, so it was just my dad and I, and all he had left to say was I better not expect help from them ever in the future because help is for family, and I've shown them that I'm not family anymore. He hung up on me. They haven't sent any other messages since yesterday. My girlfriend was the best supporter here. I cried it out, and she was hugging me the whole time until we got back on the road again. Right now, I feel like the movie Tangled, going through different stages between happy and guilty. I'm trying not to focus too much on my family, just be excited for the future. We're taking the scenic route going up the Pacific Coast Highway. Last night, we made it to Santa Barbara to spend the night. We took a detour to the beach this morning, and we're on our way now to this little place called Solvang to look around for a bit. It's been fun so far. We want to make it a memorable experience, so we're going to be making a few more stops along the way just to look at everything. We'll probably be making it in 2 or 3 days, but we still have time to settle in before our classes start. Still sad, obviously, but we are enjoying the drive together. All the people saying, "Oh, how could the parents do this?" and "Oh, why don't they want them to be successful?" have never had or read about situations like this. All that the parents know is what they have experienced. In their minds, the college-educated folks are going to be the bad guys, whether it be bankers or real estate developers or building owners or politicians. All of those people have let down their parents at one point or another, and they see their kid going to school as some sort of attack on their character. Am I the jerk for telling my brother he can't stay with me unless he gets a job and contributes? My brother wants to stay with me for a bit rent-free while he works on some tech startups in college. None of his previous startups have done well, and I don't really mind that fact at all. I'd be open to him staying with me if he wasn't so condescending and rude. My brother has it in his head that he's allowed to be demeaning to everyone because he's got a high IQ and is a brutally honest, burnt-out, gifted kid. He had this full justification from doing an online IQ test and scoring 140. He later confirmed his score with an actual professional test, which I think is a sad thing to do. In my family, we all did quite well academically and we're all quite smart. But my brother was far and away the brightest, but he hasn't really tried in college at all. He has it in his head that he's better than everyone else and won't learn anything in college. He compares himself to other famous dropouts like Bill Gates and Zuckerberg. He can be disrespectful to people taking a more traditional route. I've never been talked down to for doing medicine other than him. He and my parents are livid at me because I'm not having him in my place until he works a normal job. I don't even want him to pay. I think it'll teach him to be more humble and how hard it is out there. I'm not gonna lie, he truly is probably the brightest person I've ever met, but he's arrogant to near delusion, and my parents enable it. Getting a job will definitely not hurt his chances of succeeding himself. The discipline and perspective would help him massively. If this was just it, I wouldn't even consider the possibility of myself being in the wrong. But my parents did give me the deposit for my place and helped a bit at the start paying it off. And if I don't take him in, they'll have to pay more rent somewhere else. However, they gave me that deposit without attaching these strings to it. It's my place, and I feel what I say goes, even if I am grateful for their help. I feel conflicted because I don't want my parents paying even more in rent for him, but I also don't want to give my lazy and arrogant brother free housing with me. I'd be happy to live with him if he were contributing and didn't act like the arrogance of someone who's a temporarily embarrassed tech billionaire who's above working a normal job. So until I get that confirmation, I'm not having him. Am I the jerk? Edit. My parents live too far from college for him to live with them. They otherwise would definitely have taken him in. I don't doubt that. They always take in family, and I think they assumed I would do the same. And to clarify, I'm not asking whether you think my brother is intelligent or not. Lots of people are giving opinions on his intelligence. That's not the question here. Not the jerk. You're right that by accepting him to live there rent-free, you would be enabling him. Have you also considered taking him in and his job would be to clean the house and prepare dinners? Bruh, after everything that this guy has told us about his younger brother, do you really think that he's gonna be doing any cooking or cleaning? Am I the jerk for returning my daughter's birthday gift after the way she treated her cousin? Here's what happened. My daughter, Brooke's birthday was on Friday, so we had a celebration at home. Everything was going well until it was time for singing. Brooke blew out the candles and her cousin Aria blew on the cake too. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law said oops and apologized. Aria obviously didn't understand. It was just an accident. But then Brooke turned it into a scene. She snapped at Aria, raising her voice and calling Aria a brat. I immediately got firm and told Brooke to apologize. Brooke tried to argue that Aria ruined her birthday candles. I told Brooke that I don't care who you are or what day it is. It's never okay to treat a 3-year-old that way when you're the 20-year-old. Brooke refused to apologize and stormed off. She's 20 years old and she acts like that. After everyone had left, I informed Brooke that because she refused to apologize for the way that she acted towards her cousin, I was returning her purse, which was the main gift I had gotten her. She also got a Stanley Cup, but I let her keep that since that's something practical for school. Brooke tried arguing that she's too old for me to be confiscating her things and returning the purse was going too far. But I just told Brooke that I bought the purse with my own money and I was free to do with it as I pleased. If she wanted to act like a kid, then she's going to be treated like one. My wife, Kimberly, said she's not going to rebuy the purse for Brooke, and she agreed Brooke was out of line for how she treated Aria during the birthday celebration. But Kim said I should have more understanding for Brooke because of what's going on with Jessie. Jessie has been Brooke's best friend since they were in 4th grade. The problem is that Jessie recently got engaged and her fiancé is not a good guy. Brooke and Jessie's family staged an intervention to talk to Jessie, but Jessie is insistent on the marriage and has been talking to Brooke less and less. Of course, I understand that this is a heartbreaking situation, and I'm sorry Brooke has to experience that with her friend, but what is happening with Jessie has nothing to do with the way Brooke treated Aria. If Brooke had snapped at Aria but immediately apologized after, then I could see how returning her purse could be seen as unfair. But I think Kimberly is being too lenient with our daughter, and Brooke needs to understand that going through a difficult situation is not an excuse to behave poorly towards others. Am I the jerk? Edit. My sister-in-law was holding Aria and keeping an eye on her during the birthday celebration. My brother-in-law was explaining to Aria why she can't blow on the candles on someone else's birthday. We were in the middle of correcting Aria when Brooke snapped at her. Not the jerk. Brooke doesn't get a pass for being a jerk to a toddler just because she's going through a difficult time. 20 years is more than enough time to figure out that you don't take out your personal problems on others, especially if they're 3. Seriously. Karen neighbor keeps parking in my driveway, so I got her car towed. A few days ago, I came home from work and I saw my neighbor, Lindsay, her car was in my driveway. I was confused and I asked her very nicely to move her car and she did. The day after that, my husband came home from work before I did and he saw Lindsay's car in our driveway again. He asked her to move her car and told her that she can't do that anymore because it's not her house. He said he was polite about it and she apologized and moved her car again. The day after that, I saw Lindsay's car parked in my driveway again after I got home from my doctor's appointment and my husband was at work. I decided to ask her what's going on. Her, what do you mean? Me, you keep parking your car in our driveway after we've asked you nicely not to do it. Why do you keep doing it? Her, I have a big camper parked in my driveway and it takes up a lot of space. There isn't enough space to park my car. Me, okay, well you need to figure something out because you can't park your car in our driveway anymore. It's rude and you've already been told to stop. If you do it one more time, I'll have your car towed. She apologized to me and promised that it wouldn't happen again. Last night, my husband and I went out for dinner. When we got back home, we saw Lindsay's car parked in our driveway again. I told my husband that this was it. Enough is enough. I'm going to tow her car because she's been warned. We've tried asking her nicely and she doesn't want to listen to us. My husband agreed and I towed her car right away. I also stuck her with the bill because it's her own fault. Now she's calling me a jerk and she's upset with me. She left a note in my mailbox. She called me a drama queen and she wants to be repaid for the tow bill because it was my idea to tow her car instead of acting like an adult and asking her to move it. If I don't repay her, she will park her car in my driveway again because I'm being petty. I dare her. I'll just tow her car again. Update. Lindsay parked her car in our driveway again. I wasn't home, but my husband was, and he got her car towed an hour away. She left a nasty note in my mailbox again. It read, "You guys owe me a lot of money for towing fees. I will continue to park in your driveway until you sell your house and move." I told her if she wants us to move so badly, then she's obligated to buy us a new house. She refused to buy us a new house, and she doesn't think that we can force her to. I told Lindsay if she doesn't want to buy us a new house, then I have no choice but to file a police report and the cops will see all of the notes she's left us. Now she's fuming. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for takeout that I forced my partner to order? Forced is their words, not mine. I saw another Am I the Jerk about cooking, and it made me think of my own situation from a couple of weeks ago. I don't think I was being the jerk, but my partner's still mad about it, posting from a throwaway account as mutual friends are on Reddit. Last month, my 32 company announced that we would be laying people off. I was in the office that day and it was awful. Person after person was brought into HR, told that they were being separated and escorted out of the office. After they were done, they called a second meeting and told those of us left that the layoffs were over. A lot of the people I work with were let go. I texted my partner, who's also 32, about both announcements. Once to tell them about the layoffs and then to tell them that I was safe. In the second text, I also told them I would not be home until late. My team had decided to stay late and figure out how to redistribute the work so that our projects wouldn't fail. We sat in a conference room and worked through all of the projects and didn't leave until almost 9 p.m. Starting at about 8, my partner began texting me asking when I was getting home, what was for dinner, and that they were hungry. I kept replying that I didn't know when I would get home, that I would make dinner when I got home, and that if they were hungry, they could make dinner or have a snack and wait. I didn't get home until almost 10, and I found empty takeout containers in the kitchen. I asked if they had ordered takeout. They had. If they had ordered me any, they had not. And if they were still hungry, they were not. It was late, and I was emotionally exhausted, so I didn't eat and I went straight to bed. The next weekend, I found a Splitwise for their meal allocated 100% to me. Since we moved in together, we put all shared expenses like rent, bills, groceries, and takeout in Splitwise with a 70-30 split. Individual expenses, like if one of us buys lunch at work, do not go in Splitwise. I thought it was a mistake, so I deleted it. The next day, they got mad at me for not paying for their takeout. According to them, it's my job to make dinner, and my staying out late meant I didn't have dinner ready in a reasonable time. Since they were hungry, dinner wasn't ready, and they didn't know when dinner would be made, so they were forced to order takeout. Because making dinner is my responsibility, I should pay for their takeout. My refusing to take responsibility and pay for their takeout makes me the jerk. I don't think I am the jerk because this was an extraordinary situation and we had food in the house that we could have eaten. They chose to order $80 of takeout for just themselves instead. Since they did not order any for me, it was not a shared expense and I don't feel like I should have to pay for it. They're still mad that I won't pay for their takeout. They say that I forced them to order it because I didn't make dinner by a reasonable time. Answers to some of the questions and comments. How things got this way. I'm not sure. We were together for several years before lockdown, but we only moved in together during the lockdown. When we were both working from home, we split chores and cooking equally. My partner had to go back to the office about 6 months before I did. Once they started going back to the office, they asked me to make dinner since I was home all day. Going back to the office was really stressful for them, so I wasn't fussy about it. Plus, I only have to go in 3 days a week, so on days I'm working from home, I have time after work to cook, pick up the place, etc. Somehow it turned into cooking dinner is my job, even after I had to go back to the office. I don't mind because I usually enjoy cooking. So I do the cooking, the grocery shopping, and the kitchen cleanup. They generally text me when they leave the office so I can have dinner and a clean house waiting for them when they get home. Has this happened before? No. Questions about the takeout. The takeout they ordered was sushi, which can be very expensive. I don't know why they didn't order any for me also, as I love sushi, but I'm guessing it was because sushi is really expensive and maybe they assumed I would eat at work. Why we're together? We're together because we love each other and we have a great time together. They're usually really empathetic, but I know work has been stressful for them as they work in accounting and it's tax season. Why the 70-30 split on bills? When we moved in together, I made slightly twice what they made. We agreed to split all shared spending proportionately. No, we don't have any kids. And finally, I find it weird that everyone is assuming I'm female and my partner is male. I kept this gender neutral for a reason, and I'm not going to change that. I will say that at least half of the assumptions on gender are wrong. Why are you with this person? A compassionate partner would have made you dinner since you had such a difficult day, not whine and moan because you didn't get home at your normal time to cook for them. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. Let me get this straight. Your partner texted you during an incredibly stressful day at work asking when you're getting home to make them dinner. Your partner ordered themselves food, but they didn't bother to order anything for you, even though they knew what you were going through at work. Your partner demanded that you pay for their takeout that they ordered and ate and didn't share with you because it's your responsibility to feed them? Why on earth are you with this selfish narcissist? Your partner should have had dinner waiting for you because of the day you had. This is mind-blowing to me. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.